What is going on, everybody, and welcome to REFACTR.TECH. I wish we could all be together, but hey, tough times out there today. Tough times. Thanks for attending this talk. There is a whole lineup of amazing speakers, so thank you for tuning in. My name is DeMars. You can catch me on Twitter at @SaltonBurnham. I'm a developer advocate at Rocket Mortgage, better known as Quicken Loans, but we are Rocket Mortgage right now. I want to give a huge thank you to REFACTR.TECH for bringing me on. We've tried multiple years to do this. The first year I was moving, last year was COVID. Now we're making it happen. So huge thank you to everybody that is behind REFACTR.TECH. Also, this is a little bit trickier to do since we're not in person, but if you can, please thank your sponsors if there's a way that you can reach out, because without sponsors, there's no us. There's no community, there's no events. We need the sponsors, they need us. So if you can, please give them a shout out. Tell them thank you, see what they're doing, see what they're all about. I'd much appreciate that. If you're on the Twitters or in the Twitterverse, this is the hashtag REFACTR. If you're tweeting, quote tweeting, taking screenshots, whatever the case may be, make sure you tag REFACTR in that so that we can keep track of the engagement for the event, during the event and after. Also, if you can throw this hashtag on any tweet as well, developer community. I love the developer community. Y'all are my lifeblood. I love y'all to death. I love speaking. I love writing. I love hallway tracks, which later in the year we're going to get back to since more events are opening up in person. But y'all are the reason I do what I do. So if you could throw the hashtag on there, developer community, with any tweets that you tag with REFACTR, that would be super fresh and I would appreciate it. Why? I get this question a lot. Why do you care so much about accessibility, Chris? And the answer for me is simple. It's very simple. My mom is of the baby boomer generation. She is a boomer. She just turned 65 in May, the end of May, so that's really cool. But she has 4 out of the 5 types of impairments or disabilities that we try to stay cognizant of when we're building on the web. And the things that she has issues with, she wears glasses, I wear glasses, so that's our assistive technology. So she has trouble seeing. She also just was diagnosed with some macular degeneration in one of her eyes. So let's just hope that kind of doesn't hit too soon and it just goes way further down the line till anything really bad happens. Knock on wood. So that's one issue. She has trouble hearing, so I have to speak really loud for her to understand me or to hear what I'm saying. So that's 2. The third one is mobility. She has mobility impairments. She has arthritis. She has really bad joints, so it's hard for her to move, stuff like that, walk. So that's 3. The fourth one is cognitive. Now, what do I mean by cognitive? Well, I'm talking about math comprehension, reading comprehension, memory. I could tell her that I'm doing this talk today, and she won't remember it if I talk to her in 20 minutes, but she could remember something from 1977, like that. So we have some cognitive disability there. And the 5th one on the list are what I like to call temporary impairments. They're not really disabilities, they're just impairments, broken hand, broken finger, anything like that. Maybe you have to wear specific kind of glasses for a while, or a patch on your eye because you scratched your cornea. Who knows? Or maybe you might be that one parent, or any of you could be that parent that has a newborn child. And you have to work at the computer. And you have to use the mouse and you have to use the keyboard. But you have to hold your child. Makes it very difficult. That's a better term. Makes it very difficult to do all of that at one time. Now your child will get older. You can set them down. They'll tear your house up. And you can go back to using a keyboard and mouse. But during that time frame, it might be a little bit difficult. So these are things we have to be cognizant of and keep in mind. Now, if I can make an accessible user experience for my mom at the end of the day, I have done my job as a developer on the web. I have done my job as a worker on the web. With that being said, I hope that after this talk, if you really weren't sure about accessibility or whether it played a part in your life, go back and reflect on your why. And maybe you might have a better understanding of why we and I do what we do in the accessibility and developer community space. Thank you all again for checking out this talk. It's called ARIA, a Grande method of accessible markup. I know you like that. It's perfect. It's a perfect talk because we're going to talk about ARIA. Now, I used to have slides on like myself and who I was just to like prove that I'm human, like I'm not a robot standing up here or behind this camera or standing up at a podium, just blowing smoke. And I got some feedback one time from an event and they were pretty much like, well, Chris, we don't really care about you. We care about your talk. And that hit me in the feels pretty hard. It hit me in the feels really, really hard, and I was pretty upset about it. But then I got to thinking, I was like, you know what? The community needs to know I am a person and my interests and stuff like that. Not to brag, but I'm a person too. So I decided to throw that stuff back in. So a little bit more about me. I'm an international speaker. I love horror. Horror kind of is my life. And I love tattoos, if you couldn't tell. I also hold awards and achievements in these different categories as well. Google Developer Expert, Microsoft MVP, Media Developer Expert through Cloud and ARIA, and an Auth0 Ambassador with Auth0. So, question time. If I asked you how many people around the world have some type of disability, what would you say? I'll let you sit on that for 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. How many? 1 billion people around the world have some type of disability, and that's not including the 5 I talked about with my mom, the 4 to 5 with my mom. There are multiple different types of impairments and disabilities out there. Now, this is according to the World Health Organization, the accessibility organizations out there. It's a very, very, very big number. 20 to 25%, might even be 30 to 35% now. Big, big, big number out there. So when we talk about accessibility, who has heard the term A11Y? And if you can raise your hand, go for it. If not, that's okay. But if you've heard the term A11Y, that's cool. If not, you're going to learn about it right now. It's a numeronym. So what is a numeronym, Chris? Well, a numeronym is when you take the first letter, the last letter, you count the letters in between, you put it all together, and you get A11Y. Now, you've seen this out in the wild elsewhere. Internationalization has a numeronym, I18N. Localization has a numeronym, L10N. Even Kubernetes has one, K8S. Those are all numeronyms for larger words, bigger words. So anytime you hear the word A11Y or ALI or ALI in the context of like web and software, chances are that person or that group is talking about accessibility. What is accessibility? Well, that's a great question. That is a really great question. But more specifically, what is web accessibility? Now, this is what I think web accessibility is. Web accessibility means that everyone can use the web. Everybody should have the opportunity to have an amazing, accessible user experience, whether or not they have an impairment or some type of disability. It does not matter. Everybody should have an amazing, accessible user experience, and it's your job to make sure that happens. It is your obligation to make sure that happens. I don't care if you are a designer, a stakeholder, a BA, a QA. You can be anywhere on this web project. If you have your hand in a web project that is going to be shipped to internal or external users, you have to care about accessibility. So let's talk about ARIA. What is this term ARIA? Sometimes I hear it here, and I hear it over there, and I hear it at this conference, and I hear it in this Discord, and I hear it in this Slack or work. What is it? Well, I'm going to get to what it is in a minute, but I just want to let you know this is just a taste of this talk. This is just a taste of ARIA. Stick around to the end to see what I'm talking about. So ARIA, what is it? Great question. Well, it stands for Accessible Rich Internet Applications. ARIA, Accessible Rich Internet Applications. So this is according to the W3. You can read this if you want, but pretty much to sum it up, without ARIA, certain functionality used at websites is not available to some users with disabilities, especially people who rely on screen readers and people who cannot use a mouse. So what ARIA does, it addresses all of these accessibility challenges. For example, it defines ways for functionality to be provided by AT or assistive technologies, screen readers. Developers can make advanced web applications accessible and usable to people with disabilities if and when they are using ARIA. So it makes it a lot more engaging. It makes the user experience better for those users that need it. In a nutshell, helps assistive technology effectively navigate all parts of a page when semantics can't be determined. I love it. I love how this works. But we have one rule. You remember Fight Club? The rule for Fight Club? You do not talk about Fight Club. So we have one rule when it comes to ARIA. Don't use ARIA. Don't use it if you can use semantic markup instead. What that means is semantic markup nowadays by default is accessible, right? We have a header element, we have nav element, we have a main and a side, a section, a footer. All of these button form elements, all of these things are accessible by default. And if you can use them, use them. Don't use divs all over the place if you don't need them. Use the accessible markup that we have at hand to build out these user experiences. It will make it a lot more painless down the road. This is one of those low-hanging fruits that I talk about, is semantic markup. If you build with semantic markup first, it's less painful than having to retrofit it in the end. And a lot of the times that's what happens. Accessibility is always thought of at the end. You have to retrofit it in. It makes it more difficult. The same with performance, security. I always say the three main things that take precedence over everything: accessibility, security, and performance. Not in that order, but those three things matter the most when you're building out your web experience, your web project. So let's talk a little bit about roles, states and properties, and managing focus. Now this is all part of the ARIA spectrum, world, genre, piece of the pie, if you will. These are attributes that you put on an element to help with semantics when those elements don't already have implicit ARIA semantics. So like a header, like a button, those are already implied elements that already have implied semantics for assistive technologies. So what are roles? So this is the main indicator of the type. The semantic association, it allows tools to present and support interaction with the object in a manner that is consistent with user expectations about other objects of that type. So let's say that you have a button. You don't really necessarily need to put a role of button on there, but let's say you are using something that is a button, but you're not using a button. Or, well, you know what, that's actually a bad example. You could have landmark roles, which work where you put like a role of banner for something like at the top, or like a role of content info for like an external piece of content that really doesn't apply to the other stuff in a semantic order. That's kind of what a role is. So these are the following roles that are used to support ARIA for the purpose of general role concepts. So we have abstract roles, we have widget, document structure, landmark, live region, and window roles. So when we talk about abstract roles, these are used for ontology. Authors must not use abstract roles in content. So we have command, input, landmark, select, structure, and widget, and more. Then we have the widget roles. Now these are for standalone user interface roles if you're building something Specific, that doesn't come out of the box with like regular, markup. Composite widgets that are all like atomic, that make up one big piece. So button, link, option, radio, tab, text box, and more. We have document roles. So these define the document structure that organizes the content within a page. These are not usually interactive. So these are when you use it to put it in a document structure. We have article, directory, figure, image, table, tooltip, and more. Now, these are what I like. I like landmark roles. I'll take a sip of coffee real quick. Now, a type of region on a page to which users want quick access to. So like I said, content info that might not be up in like a header, like the main part of like what's above the fold. It might be further down in the page, like I was trying to say earlier. Content in a region is different from other parts of the region and relevant to a specific user's purpose. So what they're trying to do at that given time. Navigating, searching, perusing the primary content. Going back to the content info example I was talking about. It might not be a part of the main view of what you're seeing above the fold, but it's information that the user wants to get to below that fold or below the screen in the main body content, where there might be articles, or there might be an about section, or maybe there's like history of A, B, and C, right? It's in that section. That's where the content info is. So these are the regions of the page that you give navigational landmarks. So we have banner, which would be, at the top, content info, which would be that information that's below, or it could be above. It could be directly below the logo and the navigation in the header. But that is like the main content that the user wants to see. Form for forms, main, which is that main body of content. Then you can have content info scattered in throughout. Navigation, that's your nav bar at the top, or nav at the bottom if you have navigation links in your footer. Search for search forms, and more, which we always love more. More ARIA, more ARIA. Then we have live regions. Now, live regions are perceivable regions of a web page that are typically updated as a result of an external event. So let's think of a stock ticker or a chat log. What else? A sports scoring section, like if you're watching a game on your computer and you're looking and watching the scores and how they can go up. That would all be considered a live region. So the different types of live regions we have are alert, log, marquee. Marquee's a good one. I remember marquee, but in the markup sense. That's how old I am. Status, timer, but there isn't more for that one. Then we have window. Now the following roles are live regions that may be modified by different live region attributes. We have alert dialog and dialog. And then we have states and properties. Now, these are roles to describe the type of widget presented, such as a menu, tree item, slider, and progress bar. So here's some states and properties examples. These are global states and properties. Some of these are applicable to all host languages, regardless of the role that is applied. The following are the global states and properties supported by all roles and by all base markup elements. We have ARIA described by, which is a common one that you use. ARIA has pop-up, ARIA label, which I talk about a lot, and if you are going to stay to the end, you'll hear more about ARIA label just a little bit. But I use ARIA label a lot, and ARIA labeled by, I use that a lot as well, and more. We have widget states and properties. So this is kind of used as far as like the UI goes. If you're creating those widgets, receive user input and process user actions. These are used to support the widget roles. So states and properties, in a sense, are used to support roles in the whole grand scheme of things. So when we talk about widget, we have ARIA checked, which is used for checkboxes, disabled for disabled buttons, stuff that's going to be disabled, or if it isn't or is disabled. ARIA required, you see this a lot with input text fields. In forms, you can put a attribute of required in there, but I personally always put ARIA required as well so that the user knows, hey, you are required to enter in this field before you can proceed. And we have ARIA hidden and more. So then we have live region. This kind of goes back to the live region roles. These can be applied to any element. We have ARIA atomic, ARIA busy, ARIA live, ARIA relevant, but no more. And then we have drag and drop. Now this is for drag and drop interface elements such as draggable elements and their drop targets. ARIA drop effect, ARIA grabbed, then we have relationship. Now relationship this is for association between elements which can't be really determined by the document structure, but there is a relationship between them. ARIA col count, col index, col span, details, and more. So then we get into managing focus. Now, focus should never be removed from any element on the page. Maintaining focus can be achieved by manipulating the tab order or to use a script to create shortcuts to get around parts of the doc. Some parts of the application should have managed focus automatically. What that means is if a user shifts focus off of something, let's say in a drop-down navigation, and they are at the second item, and they shift focus off of that, when they shift back, it should automatically go back to that second item in the drop-down. So some examples of managing focus that we have are list box, menu, menu bar, and radio group. These are all about managing focus when it comes to accessible, rich internet applications. And the one thing I do want to leave you with, never remove focus from any element. You'll see an outline 0 or outline none when it comes to focus. It's with the focus pseudo class. Do not do that. You always want to keep focus in there. And if you have to remove it, find a backup way of implementing that focus back in. There is tons and tons and tons of information out there. You can check w3.org/tr/WAI-ARIA. WAI, or WAI, stands for Web Accessibility Initiative. So that's what the WAI stands for, Web Accessibility Initiative. Go here, check it out. There's tons of ARIA information out there. But wait, there's more. Remember how I was talking about sticking around to the end to learn a little bit more about what's going on with ARIA and ARIA, a Grande method of accessible markup? I will be speaking at Connect.TECH later this year in person. Yes, we will be in person for this event. It's going to be at the Cobb Galleria in Atlanta, Georgia, November 8th to the 10th. And I will be giving this talk amongst a couple other talks. It's going to be a longer talk, so it's going to be more in-depth. I'm going to cover more about ARIA. We're going to have demos, maybe some live coding, showing UX patterns where these types of things use this, especially ARIA label and the ARIA required. Show how that works in a UX pattern. And also use some assistive technology to hear how the screen reader is announcing these things when using ARIA. So that's going to be really sweet. If you're in the area, check it out. Come say hi. Come to the hallway track. Come to my talk. Let's hang out. I hope to see you there. And I'm going to leave you with this. Accessibility is not just a requirement. It is a must. You must care. You got to care about this stuff. Because we are here building for everybody, not just ourselves. I have some resources if you want to check those out. bit.ly/aria-markup. I'm sure we'll put all this information out there. Link to the GIFs, link to the ARIA Grande pick in the first couple slides, the title slide. I just wanted to give a huge thank you to everybody. Thank you for tuning in. That's me, that's my time, Salt and Burnham on Twitter. You can catch me there. Hope to see you in Atlanta. Peace.